I'm Edie, Executive Editor of Hub Culture. Really pleased to be here with Kristen Siemen, Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer of General Motors.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So what is a car company doing at COP28?
Great question. I mean, our future is an all-electric future at GM, and one of the things that we talk about a lot is that we can't do this by ourselves. There's policy that needs to happen, there's infrastructure that needs to be put in place, and the only way to do that is to collaborate with other companies, other industries, and obviously the private sector as well, public sector as well.
So tell me about some of those collaborations. What are you excited about? What are you finding is propelling you to the next stage of electric vehicles?
I mean, certainly our supply base. Our supply base is hugely important to us. Very strong partnerships that we have there. Whether it be everything from battery materials and what we're pursuing in those technologies or innovations, to even things like sustainable materials. And how do we look at things maybe differently than we have in the past? We had a lot of focus on recycled content. Now, if you really open your eyes and think about, well, what does the end of life look like? What is the whole circularity of it? And how do we work together to make sure that those are solutions that we can all live with?
Tell me about materials and tell me what you're discovering as you look into circularity of materials, something I'm fascinated by.
Sure. I mean, we've got a lot of partnerships where we've, joined on to various collaborations, whether it be GPSNR around rubber or even things we're doing with IRMA from a mining standpoint. But one of the things I think with materials is so important is that we set some standards, that we set some very clear definitions of what is sustainable. And how do we measure that? How do we make sure that we're, I talk a lot and say that in the sustainability space, it's a space we need to collaborate. We can compete with our peers on products, but we need to collaborate in this space. If I ask my supplier for something different, a different formula than a competitor does, we're really not helping the industry.
Right.
We're not helping the end consumer. And so the more we can collaborate, the more we can find standards, and even across industries. There's many industries we've had partnerships and discussions with the fashion industry around things like leather, nylon, that we both use. And how do we signal a demand out there for the future of how we want to see it?
Interesting. I hadn't thought about leather as being both a car and a fashion problem. That's interesting. So you're an engineer. What's the toughest engineering problem you think you're facing now with the future of mobility being sustainability?
Oh, great question. I mean, engineering to me is about solving problems. There's no bigger problem than climate change that we're all trying to deal with. It's amazing to be at a company that's based and founded and lives and breathes every day around innovation. Engineers aren't always looking for that great big new technology. A lot of it's about small continuous improvement. How do I make this part just a little bit lighter or a little bit, lower cost or a little bit different material? And so I think when you take a step back and look at that through a sustainability eye, we've all set some big, bold goals, and those are ambitious and great. But now we've really got to get down and talk about how are we making progress and how do we show that progress. And it's not going to happen all overnight. It's going to be some small steps that we take to really get us to the end game.
Kristen, thank you so much for stopping by Hub Culture here at COP28. I'm Edie.
Thank you for having me. It was great.